If you were to ask Google, hey Google, what's the most popular painting in the world? It's gonna come back and it's gonna tell you the Mona Lisa because it's worth like over $100 million, which is pretty crazy. And that's one of the reasons you might not want to put yourself in a situation where someone would be able to compare you to this painting. But I did today because I want to prove a point. And if I'm going to try to be overly optimistic and encouraging, then I should probably live up on my side of the bargain. So basically what I want to talk about is, as artists, we're constantly comparing ourselves to other artists. Because it's like, oh, I want to be able to draw like Glenn Keane, and I want to be able to paint like Leonardo da Vinci. And it's good to have inspirations and aspirations to be able to do these things, but it's not very good to compare yourself to them. And you have to learn the difference between inspiration and repetition. Inspiration is when you look at someone's art and it makes you feel really happy and you want to draw something that looks like that because you see someone with a really flowy skirt and you want to draw something with a really flowy skirt. So you sit down and you draw something with a really flowy skirt and you are happy about it because it made you happy, you enjoyed the process, and then you get to look at the picture, which reminds you of the feelings you had when you were drawing the picture, and so it's just a very positive experience. Repetition is when you're looking at someone's art and you're basically just comparing the whole way through. You're like, well, they draw their eyes like this, so I'm going to draw eyes like this. And they draw hands like this, so I got to draw hands like this. And they draw limbs like this, so I have to draw limbs like that. That whole experience, it just feels like school. And it feels like you're being told to do something and you have to do it, and if you don't do it, it's going to be ugly. So basically, if it doesn't turn out exactly the way this artist created it, then I'm a terrible artist and I shouldn't even try. Now, I'm not saying repetition as a whole is a terrible thing. Like, it's good when you want to learn something, and if you find a way you draw hands that you like, it's good to draw multiple hands so that you get used to it and it becomes like second nature to draw hands like that. And there's kind of a fuzzy line when it comes to inspiration and repetition sort of becoming one thing. It's like right in the middle. There's that point where you find an artist and you really like the way they draw ears and you want to draw ears like that, and you're like, it'll fit really well with my style, I'll just throw those ears on my drawings. I don't really have a problem with that as long as you're just not, I think when you reach a problem, it's when you're directly comparing it to someone else and you're like, I'm not a good artist unless I can draw as well as them. That's not what art's about. Art is about enjoying the drawing part. It's not about looking at the end result and being happy with it. I mean, artists are constantly improving. Every time you draw a stroke, you're drawing that stroke better than the last stroke, unless you're going through a little bit of a phase. Sometimes you don't draw strokes as well as you do, but going through those times where you're drawing a stroke and it's not turning out right is when you're learning how I don't want to ever have to draw a stroke. Like, it's not turning out right, I'm not going to do that again. And you're learning. Even when it looks terrible, you're learning. So it's about enjoying the process, even when things aren't going right. You're going to get frustrated, but if you really love art, you'll be able to put that aside and be able to move on. Sometimes you do just need to take a break and walk downstairs and get some ice cream or something. There are times when you need to do that. Even when you take those breaks, if you end up coming back to draw, even if it's a month later, you got so frustrated, you threw your art into the air, you walked away, and then you come back a month later and you have suddenly this urge to draw. I was like that. And I think if you get that feeling and you're always being pulled back to art, sometimes there's bigger gaps, but if you always find yourself back at art, that's something that you need to pursue, and that's something that's important to you, because if it wasn't important to you, why would you keep coming back to it? Anyway, I got a little sidetracked. What I'm trying to talk about is comparing ourselves to others. If you can learn one thing from my video, I want you to learn that it's not about being better or worse, and different does not mean worse. And it doesn't mean better either. It just means different. That's why that word exists. So when we look at my version of Da Vinci's painting, what do we see? We see a woman leaning against a box, standing in front of a pretty good scenery with one random little windy road to the left of her shoulder. What do we see when we look at Da Vinci's? We see a woman leaning against a box, standing in front of a pretty good scenery with one random little windy road to the left of her shoulder. Do you notice anything similar? We both drew the same exact thing, but they look completely different, and that's what I love about art, and that's what makes artists unique, is that you can draw the same exact thing as someone else, and it will look different, and it's not about it being better or worse, it's our art styles are different. We're different people. Sure, he has a lot more experience than I did when he drew the Mona Lisa compared to when I redrew the Mona Lisa. But, hey, we still managed to both draw a random lady standing in front of a background leaning on a box with one little windy road to the left of her shoulder. Okay? That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not about being better or worse and quit comparing yourself to other people. You guys are amazing. If you drew something, then it's awesome because you created that thing. Like, that didn't exist before you drew it. Even if you think it sucks and maybe your friends think it sucks, who freaking cares, okay? You drew it, you created it. It exists now because of you, and that is something amazing in itself. And I think we need to appreciate that a little bit more, that we're creating things, and just because they don't live up to our expectations doesn't mean they suck, because they exist now. We created them. People can view them. Some people can get pleasure from it. Some people will probably get humor out of it because they think it suck. But we're still creating emotions in people that weren't there before because we created that drawing. Hopefully that whole rambly spiel helped someone, but I just feel like I needed to say it because I know people feel this way, and I know I feel that way sometimes, and even I need to be reminded of this sometimes, and I think it's important, and it needs to be known, but I'm not good at talking like that, so we'll just move on to my picture. So I'm currently working on coloring the hair, and I did it the way I've been doing it recently. When I color hair, I will just fill in the whole hair selection, then I'll use some gradients to make certain parts darker or lighter, like just using my brain and figuring out where I think things would be darker. Then I take those two tones that I have, so I have the light tone and the dark tone of the hair, and once I have the dark gradients in there, I'll take that light color again and then just draw little places for the curls where they'd be sticking out a little bit more, and that adds just some texture to the hair, and I really like the way that looks. It's very subtle, but I feel like it also really just captures the way hair looks, because like it's not that extreme, but it's still curly, that kind of thing. And now I'm just coloring her, I don't know, on the edge of her dress it's like rolled up a little bit, I saw in the painting, so I tried to do that. And then she also has this really bright gold band that goes the top of her dress, which I was just doing. And then with her face I was really struggling because Da Vinci's Mona Lisa doesn't have eyebrows, and that was really throwing me off, and I just had to put eyebrows in there. Like, it was just kind of bugging me just a little bit, so I decided to give her eyebrows. I was going to make them, like, really blonde eyebrows later, but I never really got around to that, but I think it's okay with the really thin eyebrows that she has now. And then here I'm actually working on the background, so I tried to draw Da Vinci's background. So what I did is, if you see in the very center of the screen, like on top of Mona Lisa's face right now, I drew the little color key that I used. And with this, I basically was just looking at the reference, so the Mona Lisa, and I was sort of blotching out the background. Like, not very specifically, but trying to get like the colors where the colors are supposed to be, and just basic ideas of what the background looked like. That way, when I do go to draw the background, it's not going to look exactly like his background, but it's still going to have all the elements, so it's still going to be, you know, basically the same background, but how I would draw it, and it helps me not completely copy it and just draw it myself, which is basically what I'm trying to say. Anyway, yeah, and then I just went in and fixed some more of her face, because I usually draw my eyes with like huge winged eyelashes, but I decided, you know what, this is the Mona Lisa, probably shouldn't go that extreme. And then this is the veil of the Mona Lisa, which I never noticed before, but when I was really looking at the picture, because I was like, I gotta draw this, she has like this very translucent veil that's over her head, so I made sure I can use that. And this is the finished illustration. I did adjust some of the colors just so that they'd be a little bit more contrasty, so this is just the way I would have drawn it, kind of thing. And I really like the way it turned out. Like, it doesn't look anything like his, but it's like the same thing, you know, and that's pretty cool. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed watching me draw the Mona Lisa in my own style, you know. And again, don't compare me to Da Vinci, because that's what this whole thing was about. It's not about comparing, okay? Anyway, yeah. Oh, also, the contest results will be up today on my Facebook page, so there'll be a link in the description if you want to see who won my 5,000 subscribers contest where you had to draw little waffles as humans. Really successful by my standards, so if this video's up, then the winners have been announced, so you should go check that out on the Facebook page. Okay, bye!